Hey, everybody, welcome to the Poduty Live Podcast Theater. It is Saturday, April 25th, 2026. We've got 6 great stories about live podcasting. We're recording it live. We've got Cody Johnston. Cody, do you know what time it is?
It is time for my interview.
What time is it? What time is it? It's time for Poduty and the news. Poduty and the news. The only live news podcast about podcasting from the stage. Poduty and the news. Poduty and the news. The only live news podcast about podcasting from the stage.
Oh, the only live news podcast about podcasting from the stage. Cody, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to join you.
AKA the Weird Canadian. I love the name. I love the backstory behind it. Tell us a little about yourself. What are you working on up there, up north of the border?
So I'm Cody Johnston, aka the Weird Canadian. Currently building out a media empire that is to protect the creative. I'm really fascinated in TV shows and movies, and I'm sick of Hollywood destroying the content for whatever they think they want to make money off of. So I've really decided to build this as a company to protect that. I'm in the process of making that happen by making myself a little bit more famous and getting myself out there and showcasing who I am to the world so that I can bring in those great storytellers and be able to give them the TV shows and the recognition they deserve. Aside from that, I am also a software developer, so I am building applications left, right, and center across the board.
Awesome. I love that story. This idea of independent media. I think it's such an important part going forward because so many people have access to these tools. They have the ability to go live. They have the ability to create an asset that they own that belongs to them and nobody else can take it. And you're really tapping into that. You're getting away from these corporate conglomerates, and you're really showing people how can they build something that they own and control.
And hopefully showcasing a lot of it while I'm doing this.
Yeah, it's a great way to do it. And the website, if people want to reach out to you, connect with you, what's the best way to find you?
TheWeirdCanadian.ca, or literally anywhere you type The Weird Canadian, I will pop up. I got lucky and got that name early and have had it for a year now, so I think I own it.
There can be only one, The Weird Canadian. Check it out. Search for The Weird Canadian. Cody Johnston, are you ready for our stories?
Very ready.
Here we go. We got our first story coming tonight from History Hits Different Live. This one is from Marshall Partheon. A live episode of Us and Them used Ken Burns' The American Revolution as a starting point, but the real story was what happened next. Professors, students, and the audience all stepped into the discussion, challenging ideas about history, identity, and what the country stands for today. This wasn't about finding the right answer. It was about creating a space for different perspectives to exist at the same time. And that's where live podcasting starts to separate itself. It's not just about telling stories. It's about letting people step inside. And I think this is a lot about what we talk about here at the theater, what Cody's building. This is that idea of you can build something, take it to an audience, take it live in front of a group of people who have the same interests as you, who are interested in the same topics you talk about, the ideas you share. You can really position yourself as the expert and build a small community around your passions, around your interests.
Yeah, and honestly, with the emergence of podcasts, we're actually seeing a surge in people understanding a lot more about what's going on, a lot more about history. There's a lot in our understanding of what went on in the past that we do not know because we've lost the context of those people who actually said the words or did the things. Now is a great time to be recording a lot of the information and having these nuanced discussions because we don't get the chance to ask both sides of the story and then come up with our own conclusions from that anymore. We get told what the narrative is, and then we're just told to go along with it. We can now start challenging things, seeing things from different perspectives, and actually start understanding people as themselves instead of the collective that we see them as.
Yeah, and live events like this, you can. It's one thing to read a post on social media and like angrily type a comment to get people going and and ruffle some feathers. But when you have social discourse in an environment like this, in a community setting where you're in front of people face to face, the level of conversation is exponentially better than it is on social media. The interaction with your neighbors is exponentially better than it is on social media. And I really think people are hungry and thirsty for events like this.
People are. The internet doesn't give us that sense of satisfaction to connect with people. And I think a lot of people are starting to understand that, as we're starting to develop and understand social media and what we've done over the past 15 to 20 years with the internet. We're really structuring our understanding based on text, and that really doesn't help, because with text, you can't understand tone, you can't understand intonation, you can't understand intention. The things that make us human, that make us connect to each other and see past our differences, text doesn't do that. Text makes it harder for us to understand each other. Um, the only way you actually get to understand somebody is if you have a conversation with them and be able to see where they come from, and then also be able to showcase where you come from. I think, honestly, the more we have people talking like this in real life or even just recorded conversations, I think we're going to be more empathetic and more welcoming to challenges and things we've been afraid of for a lot of our lives.
Yeah, I really hope so. I'm really believing in that path forward. Life is just better in real life. Life is better when you're not sitting at home after work, doom scrolling through 1,000 videos, but out in the public, out with your friends and neighbors, having a night out, sharing conversation. I really think we're coming back full circle to in real life again, like the 1970s. Like we would hang out at a park or a picnic table or pavilion and talk to people. Actually hang out and socialize. And these types of events, they're coming back, and they're coming back with a vengeance.
And the other side to that too is they're also coming back and being um, cost effective. Like they're no longer like the when you have the 70s and 80s and stuff, the ticket prices for concerts and you're going out were so cheap. They wanted you to come. Um, Over the past several decades, we've just made things more and more expensive to go out and hang out with people. And now we're just coming back to everything becoming cheaper because people want more inclusivity, want people to actually show up. I think we're actually seeing the revolution take place of, we are sick and tired of capitalists taking advantage of us, and we want to build something that actually does something for us. I'm very excited for the next 10 years in terms of who you get to see, what experiences you'll get, because they'll be either expedited in a way that AI is going to help you understand it better, or it's going to be cheap enough for you to be like, yeah, I can't not say no to this opportunity.
Yeah, and in regards to some of the expenses that you've been talking about, it looks like we're starting to see some fracturing of certain companies buying the entire process of the ticket sales to owning the events to owning the artist. We're starting to see that, hey, maybe that's a monopoly, and we should let more competition in here. You can't have one company own the entire pillar of that industry. So those things are starting to break apart, and hey, with more competition, we may get back to those 70s and 80s prices.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because when we have the laws to take these guys down, we've had them for years. I think the discussion around it and the people's frustration has really driven the decision to actually use those laws. For a long time, we just been set with the status quo, and now we're actually having the power to make those choices again.
Well, you mentioned the word driven. Our next story fits perfectly into that. From stage to stream, this is Car Dealer magazine in the UK. They hosted a live event, and here's a move more events are starting to figure out. Don't let the live moment end when the room clears out. Car Dealer Live turned their event into a podcast by packaging up the best moments and releasing them as a highlight episode. It gives people a taste of what they missed while also creating a path to monetize the full replay. This is live podcasting doing double duty. First, it serves the audience in the room, then it becomes a discovery engine for the next audience online. The real takeaway here is simple. Your live event is not the finish line, it's the starting point for more content, more reach, and more revenue.
People are very afraid of the bots and the people who hide themselves on the internet. I understand. So sorry, I'm getting a little bit too far back into the weeds of things, but I understand a lot of where we came from as a society, being like, we need the anonymity, we need to be protected. The narrative around the internet in the early days of the internet was protect yourself. The narrative when I grew up was don't open the door to a stranger. Right? Those narratives have just kind of enclosed on the internet, making us become two different people. And I think the fear of showcasing who you are is now going away, and it's becoming an engine to drive change and monetary gain. You When you're working with a live event, you are more vulnerable than ever, and not just in terms of who you're talking to. It's also on stage. Like if you worry about um, anything in the political space, you might not want to go outside because potential for bad actors. But the more you do it, the more people are going to resonate with it because they want that connection. And then, yes, you get to use those reels, all of that stuff to showcase who you are in little bits. And those little bits get people interested in what they think you are. And as they start to know you, they start to generate an idea in their head of whether they like you or not. The more you push out, the more people are going to understand about you. And it's a fun fact because it kind of goes to my own story, as I am 100% myself online and offline. If you look up the Weird Canadian and talk and showcase how I speak and everything, I will do the exact same thing in person. I am most likely to tell you an insult online as I am in person now, because I'm done with the line of not showcasing who we are, because I think we need people to just be real again.
Yeah, the one thing you can't do in a live environment is run it with AI. It's honest emotion, it's honest conversation. And in events like this, where you're having an audience come in, they're talking about automotive business, they're talking about how to be better at your dealership, how to sell more cars. But the audience that's in there that day, there's also a whole group of people outside of that audience that want to hear what happened at that event. They want to hear the replays. And those replays then become sort of the marketing to set up the next event. So when you create your own media, when you're giving information as a human, not as letting some bot write a blog post, you're building this thing that other people will gravitate to. And as more people outside of that event gravitate towards it, that's more ticket sales down the road. You're really extending your advertising, your marketing. You're finding ways to grow that event for 9-10 months down the road to start selling the tickets for the next event.
And you don't even need to be big. I cannot say this enough. You could literally have your live event in a park that you have in your local area with no cost to you, everything you already have resource. It used to be that there was this big barrier to having these extra clips and things that you could post on TV or social media. That cost is next to nothing now. Everybody with a phone now has the same ability as anybody in a studio. So don't think your live event needs to be on some stage somewhere. You can just host an event with live people in your neighborhood, at a park, or in your own home, or wherever you feel like it. And then you can just monetize from there. Like you can figure out how to get more people involved based off of that. We're opening more ways to wealth to the individual.
Absolutely. And one of the things, the power of live events, here's the secret to the theater space. And a lot of people come to me and like, hey, I want to do a live event, but I don't have a space in my neighborhood. And just like Cody says, oh, yes, you do. You have parks, you have coffee shops, you have restaurants that have banquet rooms that go unused during the weekday. You have libraries with media centers. There's places to do this. But the real secret to live events is I'm going to give you a little bit of podcast math today. I know it's Saturday morning. We don't want to have a lot of math, but the most podcasters, they put a show together and their goal is I'm going to build an audience and then I'm going to sell ad space to advertisers. And the reality is, if you can get 1,000 downloads for your podcast, you can sell a block of 1,000 ads for about $20. If you did a host read ad, every 1,000 downloads you get, you could earn about $20. But where the math breaks down is 90% of podcasters do not get to 1,000 downloads per episode. So there's this major hurdle that nobody talks about. So if you could get 1,000 downloads, you make $20. Great. That's our starting point. That's our baseline. But if you were to do a live event at a coffee shop, at your library, and you sold 4 tickets for $5, right? Get your friends, your family, your cousins, your neighbors. You say, hey, I just need to get 4 people to come watch me live. Those 4 people at $5 will give you $20 in ticket sales, which is equal to the 1,000 people that would download your digital download. So I asked people, what's more realistic? Is it more realistic to get 4 people to show up for you or to get 1,000 downloads on your next episode? And the math tells us that it's more realistic to start building this asset that you own. Don't rely on the algorithm to bring you an audience. Rely on yourself to build community. Rely on yourself to elevate your friends and neighbors, entertain them, build something that's special in your hometown, because those 4 people quickly become 16. They become 32, 64. I'm using computer math here, but it doubles every 18 months. You're gonna build something that has value, and you're gonna see returns right away because you're entertaining a live audience. In real life, IRL events have so much more potential than digital downloads for 90% of podcasters.
And that's one of the reasons why I'm so gung-ho on building a media company that protects the creative, because there's so many more avenues to monetize TV shows and movies than just showcasing the actual show. One of the biggest takeaways for me is I think most of the content, most of the storytelling should be free. Anything extra, that's where you get into the charging. If you want to go into more backstory and you want to understand more of the character, that takes time out of my day, so I'm going to charge for that. But I just want to showcase my story. I just want to showcase what idea I have in my head. That should be free. Ideas should be out there for everybody to use and have. It's the content, or the branded content that you then start selling. There's so many monetization ways and pathways to even be successful. You don't even have to follow the standard route anymore. And I appreciate that we have the opportunity now. We haven't for most of our existence.
Exactly. The last 20 years have really been controlled and taken over by certain tech companies that control the whole flow of information. But there is this, hey, let's maybe reset. The people are kind of sick of this, that why am I working for you for free to give content to your system that you're not going to share with the people who are subscribed to me? You're going to suppress me until I either pay to boost it in the algorithm, or I'm just done with it. People are done with it, and they want something more tangible. They want to have a night out. They want to. Sometimes we've had shows here. I would say half of our shows bring in full catering. Like, they make it an event where they're feeding their guests, they're having drinks, and then they do a show, and they're having a good time together. And that's a complete different experience than we've been building for the last 20 years online.
If you really break it down, the only thing that is actually tangible in your life is life experiences. That's just the simple fact of life. If you don't experience new and different things, you're going to be the same person, not go anywhere, and not do anything. Getting out there, meeting people and connecting is the only way to grow.
Like, what's the value of a like and subscribe compared to the value of a handshake and eye contact? They're not even on the same game.
I've gotten to talk to CEOs of big companies just because I asked them and have a connection with somebody else. Like, these are opportunities that you miss out on when you don't connect.
Well, speaking of connection, I connected to this next story because one of my favorite movies is Back to the Future. And this podcast is called Bake to the Future. It's in the baking industry. It comes to us from the Commercial Baking, I think it was a conference. When industries have real problems, live podcasts are starting to become the place where those problems get talked through in public. At a baking conference in Chicago, a live episode of Bake to the Future focused on one issue that keeps coming up: workforce, hiring, retention. That seems like four issues. On some of the issues that keep coming up: workforce, hiring, retention, and the future pipeline. Instead of another closed door panel, they opened the conversation up on stage and turned it into content. That shift matters because now the conversation doesn't just stay in the room, it becomes something the entire industry can learn from, share, and respond to. Live podcasting isn't just entertainment, it's becoming a tool for industries to think out loud.
We hire people to companies to solve problems. That's your job. You go in to solve a problem that they have. We understand that when we have an issue and we don't understand it, we need to bring in expertise. What happens when you don't know what expertise you need? What happens when you don't know what the actual problem is? You need to bring in insight from everywhere. Governments really should take heed to this, because if you put out what actual issues there are, you could have a public discussion where facts come out, experts come out, and just general ideas that nobody would have thought of. The reason software developers love open source is because we don't think we know everything, but we know that if we ask others, they're going to be able to help us work through things. You have an experience set that you've developed over your lifetime. That experience set does not work in every scenario. And if you just open up your world to saying, okay, I don't understand this, let me find somebody who does, we solve everything. We solve world hunger. We solve diabetes. We solve medical breakthroughs. This is why I'm so gung-ho on AI, is because we are actually allowing intelligence to be sourced by anybody, which means if you have some sort of experience in a field and you want to learn more in another field, it doesn't take much to learn that other field because it can break it down in a way you understand. I think every problem we have is going to be solved by the public. We just need to let the public actually have access to it.
Yeah, and events like this, where there used to be these closed door, conversations where the event would pick four people, usually four people who were sponsors of the event. They got to send their CEOs or CMOs, and you would just listen to a panel of four people regurgitate, company mission statements. But now, by having podcasts replacing those panels of four people, they're bringing in podcasts as a form of entertainment, as part of the show, as part of the schedule. Isn't a 4-panel entertainment anymore. They're bringing in podcasts from within the industry, and they're having unstructured dialogue. They're tackling problems like you hear here at Baking Tech 2026, where the podcast is talking and diving into issues that are actually interesting to the audience. Whereas before it was talking points for sponsors regurgitating to the audience. Now we're opening that dialogue, allowing the podcast to control the conversation of the room, to talk about things that are going to impact the industry in 8 months, 16 months down the road. This is the real future of events, is having these industry conversations happen live on stage.
To be honest with you, you don't even know what expertise you don't know until you start investigating. With AI, I was a software developer. I really enjoyed code. Now I'm a musician, an author, podcast host. I'm running a 3D printing company. I'm doing tourism in my town. These are all things that I just got empowered to do because I was interested in something different. Podcasts gives you a lot of insight into what you don't know and how to work with it. And gives you a lot of questions to run with. I'm very, very happy about like searching the internet and figuring out what I'm trying to figure out. And once I do, I'm so happy. I think people enjoy solving problems, and I think giving everybody the same opportunity is as equitable as you can be on a planet. You're giving everybody the opportunity to solve the same problem.
Well, speaking of solving problems, so many problems get solved over beer. We got beer, business, and the buzz. When you bring podcasting directly into the middle of an industry event, you don't just report on what's happening, you become part of it. At the Craft Brewers Conference in Philadelphia, the Brewbound podcast set up for an on-location studio to capture energy in real time. From major acquisition news to conversations about customer experience and industry trends, they turned the conference into content as it unfolded.
You are essentially just giving more will to people to join, right? Like you're showcasing how it's fun. You're showcasing that it's a great environment. You're showcasing everything people worry about when they go into a live space. They're worrying about who they know. They're worrying about who they can talk to. They're worrying about what they don't know that they might be embarrassed of. I think this is kind of something that I've been working on a while ago. People are ashamed to ask questions. And a lot of that shame gets alleviated when there's some idiot like myself in there just saying things that are enjoyable and making it a little bit more of a welcoming space. I don't know about you. The last time I was at an expert event, I didn't feel like an expert at all. But I also didn't fear questioning where I didn't know things. Like I'm okay with being wrong, because if I'm wrong, it means I have an opportunity to figure out what's right. And with that, I think you're getting more nuanced conversations that people want. The lacking in humanity that we have on the internet, where it's like these quick clips where you only get a snippet of information, you don't get much detail. You're actually getting to understand the personality of a person. And I think that's more welcoming to an event than just showcasing what that event can be about. Like I love beer, but I know nothing of it, and I don't know what I would talk about aside from I want to go to each booth and drink a beer. Right? Like who's gonna actually like pull me aside and say, hey, like, do you want to learn about brewing, or do you want to learn how we do our different processes? And sometimes you want to know that information, but you don't want to ask. It's a great opportunity for people to do that.
It's almost like the sharing of information has gone grassroots again, where in this conference, you're getting direct information from the people who are making it happen, who own small breweries, who probably have small restaurants alongside their brewery to figure out different ways to monetize and keep customers entertained. You're getting all that information from the people who are actually doing it, not just experts, but the experts who are actually doing it. And I think these types of events really connect the people who are interested in it with the people who are doing it. And it's really this new one-to-one exchange of information.
I like how you phrased the experts question, because to me, those experts that came on stage and said they were experts in things, while they may be knowledgeable, they hadn't done the actual work. To me, an expert is somebody who's actually doing the work, actually in the process of developing something or making something. They have more expertise on what they are doing than your higher up does. They may have been involved in the process at some point, but they are no longer involved, which means they have a little bit of lacking of information in key areas that a lot of people are. So as a software developer, I'm more likely to connect with another software developer who's speaking my language than a senior expert who can't speak the same language as me.
Yeah, a lot of, quote unquote experts, they did have success at one point, maybe 10, 15 years ago, and really made waves throughout the industry. And then they just relied on that for 10 to 15 years. But I'd rather talk shop with the people getting their hands dirty, who are doing it right now, who are moving the needle on a grassroots level and becoming, yes, they'll probably be the next experts in 10, 15 years because of what they're doing now. And that's fine. That's a great career path to take, and not taking away anything from that. But, most of the time you're going to get your best information from the people who are actively doing it right now today.
And with the level of technology we have, it's becoming harder and harder to stay an expert on anything unless you're doing it full time.
And when I want to portray myself as an expert and write down some notes, I always use I put all my notes in crayons, and this is where we're going to the next one. The Crayola's second act. This comes to us from Adweek on YouTube. You would think a brand like Crayola has already done everything it can do, but in a live podcast at Brandweek, their former CMO, Victoria Lozano, made it clear that growth never really stops. The conversation focused on how Crayola is expanding beyond kids, tapping into adult audiences, and building an entire ecosystem around creativity. This is bigger than marketing. It's about rethinking what your business actually is. And it's where live podcasting shines. Instead of a polished campaign, you get a strategy behind it. You get to see why. Because staying relevant isn't about protecting what you've built. It's about being willing to redline it in real time.
This is kind of an interesting story because I actually had an interview with the chief creative director. I can't remember her title of Lego. And she was showcasing how she brings Lego into high-profile executive boardrooms to showcase how it isn't just a toy. It's something that you can work with and people understand as a general medium. I think a lot of things we used to do as children are vibing with us now because when we were playing with those things, they were real to us. They had imagination beyond belief for us. We've gone into a system where we're told exactly how things are supposed to be. And then we grew up into that system to find out that none of that is true. Everybody just making it up as we go. And people are really just wanting to see where people are coming, like where the businesses are coming from. Why are you marketing this to me? Why do you think I should have these things? And the more businesses are open about their processes, who they're doing it for, what they're doing, the more likely you are to buy. This is one of the revolutions I think we're going to go through is a lot of these giant companies are going to fail because instead of being transparent, they're going to hide and try and showcase only what they want to show. We no longer live in a high trust world. People want accountability and they just want to understand. And if you don't have those two things as a business nowadays, you're not going to make it. We're seeing that with AI right now. People aren't trusting the models, and smaller models are coming up because they're just saying, hey, we did this way. We're going this way because we believe this. It's going to happen everywhere. And my only hope is that people, like the bigger companies, start embracing those changes. I think they're going to benefit from it mostly. But I also think that they're afraid.
Yeah, the AI revolt is just around the corner. You see people getting angry now. People are straight up not even talking to you if they even suspect you're using AI. There was just a radio station in Cleveland that was promoting their podcast, and they were using the voice, but they were using AI imagery as the part of the voiceover, and people rejected and revolted this whole campaign in droves. And we don't want to see that. We want to see that connection, and I think that's something Crayola is really tapping into here. I'm thinking of myself. I'm turning 50 this year, and I hadn't thought about crayon since I was 5. 45 years ago, I was in the market for Crayola, but I wasn't the purchaser. My parents were. But then I had children, and I had another reconnection with Crayola by coloring, with my daughters, and having those sessions on the floor where you're coloring Princess Belle images from Disney, doing all the coloring. But as an adult, we're finding we see a lot of adult coloring books. It's very therapeutic. It's very relaxing, and this is a company that's kind of tapping into real experiences, real life things, real moments that you share with family, real connection. And if you can do that with your podcast, show the real side of it. Show how do you connect with real people in real time. That's what they're building. That's a great lesson for you to take for your podcast.
With the also a resurgence of childhood, like nostalgia and stuff like that. For a long time, we have always been a society that teaches our children that you need to be adults as fast as possible. we are now learning that the more you make a child do that, the more mental harm you cause to them. The best way you could raise a child right now is let them be a child. Stop putting them in political narratives. Stop putting them in what you think they are. Let them just play, have fun, figure things out, and they'll have a better upbringing. The kids, we have an opportunity for our next generations to raise kids, allowing them to be children and understanding that fact. And now, like, when I say Crayola working on a nostalgia now, is all of the adults now who wanted that childhood that they never got, they didn't get to play because they were told they had to be adult, they had to do this, they had to do that. They're going back to those things because they feel like they missed out on something. And honestly, I grew up thinking I needed to be an adult. It was only when I realized that being childish makes your life fun. I can still do things as an adult. I can still take on responsibility, but I'm going to be a child for the most part when I want to. I'm going to play. I'm going to have fun. When you strip that out, you don't really enjoy much.
And speaking of having fun and doing things as an adult, you could go to the New Heights podcast. I saw this. This was all over social media. This is all over press releases, but I'll give Pod News credit. I was the first place I saw it was on Pod News. And this is what it looks like when a podcast becomes something bigger than a podcast. New Heights with Jason and Travis Kelce is heading to Los Angeles for a live show at the Orpheum Theatre. And it's not just a recording, it's a full-scale experience. Thousands of fans, brand sponsors, celebrity guests, and a distribution plan that stretches across YouTube, Prime Video, and podcast platforms. This is the evolution. Content turns into community turns into events, and live events turn into a full business ecosystem that includes commerce, partnerships, and cultural moments. Live podcasting is no longer a side project for some creators. It's the business model.
It really is. I've actually talked to a lot of marketing experts as of late, and they are saying if you don't have a presence online in 2026, you are probably not going to make it in the future. We are getting to the point where there's so many avenues of learning about things. You have to be on everything. You have to be everywhere if you want to actually make something of yourself. But you also can size that. If you only want to stay on one community, you can stay on one community. You don't have to go further. It's just a matter of what you want to do. In terms of why people start podcasting, it's all preferential choice. Like I started it because I wanted to showcase a different type of narrative than we're being seen. But my ultimate goal isn't that, right? Like it's understanding who I want to be and who I understand I am, but also taking steps to guarantee I can do certain things in life. You got to understand that everything's a stepping stone into everything. The more you're willing to throw yourself out there and try new things, the more connections, the more opportunities, the more understanding you're going to have about yourself. And I think ultimately it comes down to understanding who you are, to understanding what you want. And everybody just likes to showcase who they are and what they want. And people connect to that. People just want to be real, showcase who they are, and connect with others. Like my biggest qualm throughout my entire life is I didn't know how to connect with people. I didn't understand how to have friendships. I didn't know what people wanted from me. And then I realized that doesn't matter. I needed to figure out what I wanted for me.
Yeah, and you use the term stepping stone, which is a great way to describe this evolution that we're seeing in podcasting. Whereas this started as a YouTube show, and then I think one of them started dating the largest pop star in the world, and it became something bigger than what it is. And they have done live events in the past, and that's kind of like this evolution. Yes, they can sit at home, record an episode, read sponsorship ads, and they probably make a very good chunk of change doing that. But live events, filling theaters, filling arenas, that is a whole nother game of making a profit off of a single episode. So think about these steps and that stepping stone that Cody's mentioning. Right now, you're recording in your home studio, just like the New Heights podcast was 5-10 years ago. How do you get out of that? How do you get to the next level? How do you play those small clubs, those parks, those coffee shops? How do you get out of your home studio environment into the real life so that when these large events come to town and they start looking for opening acts, they're going to start to pull from people who are doing the work, who are putting in the time, who are doing live shows already in front of an audience and have experience? You'll be ripe for that selection.
In terms of how you get there, this is a hard process. Even I'm still learning. I'm not at that point. I do understand how to get there. I'm still fuzzy on some of the details, but I'm kind of just going on autopilot. One of the biggest things you could do as a podcaster, if you want to be recognized, is just consistently upload. That consistency schedule is something that really resonates with people. If you're willing to show up day in, day out for your audience, they're gonna take that. They're gonna understand that. You only grow by keeping at it. I started this a year ago, and the majority of podcasts that I started with, like, because I started on Podmatch, which is where we met. I started when they first started up, and all of those podcasts that came up with me, most of them are gone. It's because they didn't have the consistency. They couldn't see past their, oh, if I post this, people will come. And when they don't come, I've done something wrong. It comes over time. Everything is a rolling stone. The more time and energy and consistency you put into something, the more expert you get, the more understanding you get, the more tweaks you can put in, the better you're going to resonate with your audience. In terms of how I'm going, this next year, I have plans to scale. So I'm looking at bringing in, creating a community space, bringing in people who actually resonate with my content to help me generate even more content. The stepping stone is just engaging. It really is. Figuring out what your audience wants from you and then just giving it to them. And also being happy about it. Like, I don't care if my content doesn't do well. I'm just happy that my content's out there. And that's kind of the mentality you need to have when you come into the entertainment space. You need to stop worrying about the ifs, ands, or whats and just be like, I'm happy with what I've done because it means something personally to myself.
Yeah, think about the types of communities that you build or the types of communities that you're a part of. You can join a group online, a Facebook group or a LinkedIn group, and kind of talk to people or bounce ideas off of people. But the communities that you form in real life around content creation, around things that you love to do, you can't replace that online. And let's say you meet people in your community that like what you talk about, and you just schedule a meetup once a month. You could think of how far you could grow your ideas and concepts and show ideas in 6 months or 12 months if you start laying that groundwork now. And that's what Cody's building these communities, connecting with people. You can do that in your hometown. You can do that with people around you who love doing the same thing. And why not start building that community who wants to come out and see live events?
Even before I started this, like, I connected with streamers online. I ended up in a community. That community found me a few friends that I was talking to. We set up our own community and became our own little friend group. We no longer associated with the streamer anymore, but now I have friends all over the world that I've connected with in different ways because we just had a shared community to begin with. It's all about connecting. I'm really starting to understand that the human experience is all about connecting with people.
That's it. It's so simple. I'm 50 years old and I'm just figuring it out now. Cody, this has been a blast. The 6 stories, they go by so fast, and I really appreciate you being here today. I love the way you're building things, the perspective of which you're bringing to the content creating community. You are doing something that I believe is the most important part of the future of podcasting, of the future of content creating, bringing these communities together, really building the asset that belongs to the individual and letting them control the narrative. Cody, one last time, I'm going to turn the floor over to you. Plug, promote, talk about anything you want. Cody, the floor is yours.
Hi, my name is Cody Johnston, aka The Weird Canadian. You can find me at theweirdcanadian.ca or anywhere you can type in The Weird Canadian. In terms of what I want to talk about for my last little bit here, the world is changing at a significant pace. And I understand a lot of people are afraid of what's going on and how it's happening. I just press everybody to look a little bit deeper than the headlines, kind of try and understand what's right and what's wrong. Come up with your own set of moral values that you do not want to compromise and stick with it. I think becoming who you want to be is easier than ever in this day and age. And it just takes a little bit of understanding of yourself. And I'll be writing a book about this to give you some strategies. It's called Bleeding Digital. I have no representation yet. It will be out soon, or hopefully soon. But yeah, if you need any information or just want to connect with me, anything at all, like I'm an open resource. My email's open. If you reach out to me, I'm going to have an engaging conversation with you, as long as you're not a troll.
No trolls. The Weird Canadian. That's your tagline. With the Weird Canadian, no trolls.
It's because I used to be a troll. It gets me going is the problem.
Yeah. I do. I deep down inside, I think we're all trolls that enjoy pushing buttons and ruffling feathers. But Cody, this has been so much fun. I'll put all the links into the show notes. We also have the crew page on Poduty in the News, where every guest that's ever been on the show gets a page, the crew page, with all the links to their whatever they're building, to their websites, and all the links of all the podcasts they've ever been on. I'd love to have you back on the show on a future episode. You'll see all that on Poduty and the Crew. Cody, do you remember what time it was?
I guess it was my interview time.
What time is it?